From the Four Rivers Cultural Center in Ontario, Oregon, we bring you the third annual Tradition Keepers Festival, highlighting cultural artists in Oregon's Treasure Valley and beyond. In this episode, you'll meet Warm Springs tribal elder, spiritual leader, and storyteller Wilson Wewa.
Well, since the beginning of time, the first creation were all the animals and the plants that were put upon the earth. And for our tribe, which is not unlike other tribes, those life forms took care of the earth prior to the creation of mankind. And so their history through the legends and through our stories is a part of our history. And we, the Northern Paiute people, didn't have a system of writing or the technology to write on paper or to transmit through written forms. And so oral transmission of our histories, our life ways, our cultural norms, everything that makes us who we are was done through speaking and listening. A part of that profession, if you could call it that, was to be able to captivate your audience. And in doing so, you were able to transmit all those things I mentioned to the people that were listening. And so a lot of how the world was created, how different animals were created, how geographical features throughout Northern Paiute territory was created is all in the form of legends or stories. And because through time, our people witnessed the habits of all of the animals, and our people knew from hundreds of thousands of years of being on this land, our people knew the different zones that plants grew in and where to get water, where to find certain foods, what times of the year to find those foods, what phase of life a plant was in order to get the most potent medicine from that. And so through time, all of those things were kept by our spiritual people and by our medicine people, our Indian doctors, our storytellers. And so in order to keep our tribe alive, those things were transmitted to our people through stories and legends. The language is a connection to everything that we are. It's a connection to our plants, to the animals, to the water, to the unseen things in this world. And so language is a big part of that. Putting all that together is a way of giving that to our children. And it's our hope that if we live long enough that we can give that information to our grandchildren. And it's in a fun, understandable format that isn't lost. Today, because of education, the secular education that was brought to us through assimilation, we've lost that ability to be as good as our ancestors were in transmitting word for word histories, legends, stories through our people. I never ever had intention of being a storyteller or a historian or anything for my people. But I was fortunate to spend a lot of time with my grandmother, and taking the time to sit with her and to listen to what she had to say. And through the years, over probably 40-year span of time, we met a lot of Northern Paiute elders. And for whatever reason that those old people had, they always relished talking about the past. I enjoyed listening to what they had to say, and I ate it up, never knowing that later on in life, which was probably when I turned 55 years old, which was probably about 10 years ago, I was doing a presentation and I was approached to write a book about the stories that I knew. And I was somewhat reluctant to do that because I said, well, if people want to learn the stories, they need to come see me. And then when we discussed the stories, it was brought to my attention that a lot of our young people, through assimilation, through the boarding school, through the public school, didn't have that opportunity to learn the way I did. And that a lot would be lost if I never wrote down what I knew. And I struggled with that for probably, it might have been close to a year. And then I was approached again about writing down the stories that I knew. And by that time, I had mentioned to a handful of elders, probably, there was at that time probably 18 elders, that at a gathering that I attended, that I was being told to write a book. And then those elders that were in their 80s and 90s said, Wilson, you have to write a book. You need to put those things in writing. We thought that our grandparents were going to live forever, and they passed away, taking a lot of that knowledge with them. From personal perspective, I argued with my own nieces and nephews about Paiute history. And they used to tell me, well, where is it written? Show me where it's written and I'll believe you. And I told them, my grandma told me, my dad told me, my grandpa told me, old people in all the Paiute reservations told me this. Why don't you believe our own people? They're not dead. I'm not dead. I'm a living form of culture. And you guys don't believe us. You guys believe what has been written by people that never experienced hunting, gathering, fishing, looking for medicine, hearing the legends, hearing our history. And you're believing them and you're not believing your own people. And so with that in mind, that was how my quest on writing a book, and also to renew in my mind the sequence of events in each story to make it whole. The risk that I see is that people that listen to me change my words to fit what they want. And they don't take the full meaning of what I'm saying. And then they start quoting me as a byproduct of their authority. And so that doesn't sit well with me, but I never know my audiences. My worry is that academians sometimes want all the glory of being the first to write something on a given topic. And that has happened way too much on Native American subjects. And we're treated as an extinct race rather than a living culture. I think it's very important when learning about Native American culture, no matter which culture it is, including Northern Paiute, to go into your quest for knowledge with an open mind. Don't think that all the tribes are the same. Here on the plateau and in the Great Basin, there are still groups of people that still harvest the foods yet. And we're shut out of our gathering areas because of private land ownership. And so our areas to gather and hunt and to continue our bits and pieces of our old ancestral lifeway are diminishing because we have no access to the land. And so being cognizant that to be a culture, you need to have land. You need to have language. You need to have living stories to transmit to the generations after me. And that's what our old people from 2 generations ago, my dad's generation, my grandma and grandpa's generation, was what they always told us to was never forget who you are, or you will become like everyone else.